What's up and welcome back everyone, an elephant in the room. The setup is slightly different this time just because I forgot my tripod, so we're improvising a little bit. But with that being said, I have managed to see Anora today, so let's look at some footage.
What is that? Is that a butterfly?
Yeah, I'll just sit right next to you right here.
You're so classy.
So Anora is a 2024 release written and directed by Sean Baker, and the story follows Anora, a young sex worker from Brooklyn who gets her chance at a Cinderella story when she meets and impulsively marries the son of an oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as the parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. And the film stars Mickey Madison and Mark Eidelstein. So we have another Sean Baker film, which is always a good thing, and he seems to have picked up a bit of a shtick here with making films about sex workers, which is of course a good thing and something which apparently he did not intend. But there's a particular amount of hype that came with this one. Now, people will know Sean Baker for the film like Tangerine or for the really acclaimed The Florida Project, and he also did Red Rocket as well, which also received a lot of critical acclaim. But this was the really big one for him, as this won the big prize at Cannes just earlier this year, with a lot of praise being heaped on Mickey Madison's performance. And the praise is all mostly merited. I was particularly excited for this one just because I like the style in which Baker makes his films. They feel very raw and real, whilst also kind of feeling like they live in this world of their own. And I know that doesn't really make all that much sense, but I think the feeling really comes from the way Baker decides to use the camera in the films that he makes. So if you look at something like Tangerine, where he was famous for using an iPhone to shoot that entire film, and he pulls it off for the most part in that film, and it gives the film this certain feel. He did it again with The Florida Project, where he made somewhere like The Florida Project seem all at once very real, but also a bit like a fairy tale world at the same time. And it's really no different here. He's using the same techniques that he's used now for the past couple of films, where a lot of it is handheld, and there are quite a few long takes as well, where he doesn't cut too often. He's also the editor on his films, and he's the editor on this one again. And the world that we meet Annie in is very real and very grimy, but there's also that fairy tale feeling which comes with it. So when I first saw what this film was going to be about, I didn't really know what to expect, because you never really know with Sean Baker. He is known for putting humor into his films a lot of the time, but he's also known for delivering something fairly gut-punching at the same time. Not necessarily a lesson, but just a harsh reality of the world that he's decided to showcase. So when we meet Annie, she's working in this strip club, and one fine night this boy named Ivan comes along. He's a young Russian, he just wants to have a really good time, and they form a little bit of a connection, and things kind of go from there. And the first half of this film is this very kind of like, not, I wouldn't say typical montage set pieces of younger people having a good time and drinking a lot and smoking weed and stuff like that, because it's all done in a way which feels believable. When you meet the character of Ivan and you find out the kind of wealth that he comes from and the kind of parties he puts on, it does make sense that these things would happen, so nothing ever seems out of the ordinary for this person. And then the second half of the film is almost two parts. There's this one nearly 20-minute set piece which is hilarious, when the kind of key moment of the film really kicks off shortly after Ivan and Annie get married. And it really is this truly wild and completely hilarious series of events that happen in one location, and I was having the time of my life when this was on. The whole theater watching along with me was having the time of their life. And then the final part, I did start to wonder to myself, when are we going to get that Sean Baker hit? Where it's kind of like Baker is looking at the audience and going like, you guys have had fun for 2 hours and 15 minutes, but now it's time to feel bad. And it does come eventually, and obviously I won't spoil anything, but this might be the most effective one that he's done. I still remember watching The Florida Project originally and getting to the end of that film and thinking like, whoa, I was like hanging out with these kids for 2 hours and it was all kind of lighthearted, and even though bad things were happening around them, nothing bad happened to them. And then coming to the end of it and just going like, wow, this is really sad. And I was watching Anora for most of the runtime and being like, this is the most fun I've ever had in a Sean Baker film. And then something happens and I was just like, and that's a real power that Baker has as a filmmaker. And I don't think there's really anyone that's doing it like the way he is today. This is a really easy one for me to review because I don't really have anything to nitpick from. I think the only thing I could say, the only real thing, is at times early on, I didn't really buy the relationship between Annie and Ivan, because obviously it's a transactional thing. But then the more I think about it, when you think about the character of Annie and where she comes from and what she really wants from life, you kind of see why that connection was made. So look, it's not going to be very analytical. This is an incredibly well-directed film. The soundtrack is great. The camera work is also great. I mean, if you don't like shaky cam, there are points where that will annoy you. The performances are out of this world. Like Mickey Madison, I actually can't name something I've seen her in before. Maybe that's a bit of a blank spot for me, but she is fantastic in this role. She's really physical, she's really emotional. The accent work, to my knowledge, is spot on. Mark Eidelstein is fantastic. Apparently he actually didn't know English before he read this script and had to have things translated to him and had to learn the bits of English for this film, and he's really, really great in this. But I want to give a particular shout out to the character of Igor, or Igor as they call him in the film, who's played by Yura Borisov, and this guy is fantastic in the work that he has to do in this film. He's definitely one of the best characters. He comes in about halfway through, and I was just loving everything that this guy was doing. And the whole supporting cast around it is just really great. This is one of the best put together films of this year in all the sum of its parts. And it sounds like I'm gushing, but frankly, I am. This is easily one of the best films of the year. I recommend it to everyone to go and see it because it's really fun, it's really funny, and it's really well made, and it's also really, really hard hitting as well. More people should go and watch the films of Sean Baker. He's one of the best filmmakers that we have doing his thing today. And I, for one, am really glad I found the time to go and watch this film in a theater, and everyone else should too. So there you have it. Anora is simply fantastic. And with that, I want to hear what you have thought of Anora. Or if you haven't seen it, tell me down in the comment section if you're excited to see it. If you're not too excited, if you have seen the film, tell me if you liked it, tell me if you didn't like it. Just go crazy down there. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you like the thing I'm doing over here, share the video with your friends, that always helps. We are back to regular programming on the Adlib podcast, and we will be live tonight at 8:30 p.m. in Malta, or 7:30 p.m. if you are looking at us from the UK. I will be talking about Anora with Andrea and Frank over there. I've also got Heretic to talk about, and we're gonna go through some of the video nasties that we reviewed just last week, at least on myself and Andrea's part. But until then, I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you're enjoying all the work that I'm doing on this channel. Goodbye, America, and thank you for watching.